Brothers and sisters, this is video number 12, and this will help tie everything that has been taught in, it'll tie it all together in balance. So I have a list of events on this whiteboard, and this is taking us back to the very first dream that I was given. I was told to give 2 dreams, but the first one I had to share because it helped us see what was actually happening. So we're going to go to this whiteboard, and I'm going to break this down. In the beginning I thought that I had, they were like, oh, okay, well, what I thought that Father had given me, the full understanding of everything. And because I was like, okay, I'd asked for the interpretation, and I'm like, oh, I understand what that means. I understand what this means. And I sit here 3.5 years later going, I don't know if I had a pretty good understanding then, but now it's so much more than I could have ever imagined. So let's go to this whiteboard and we're going to talk about this. Okay. So again, we see that all of this was done to literally return creation balance, and in return a new heaven and earth can be created. And I just need to write this here so that it's on there, which is a kingdom. Okay. All right. So when I was instructed, because when I had this dream, you see these 2 dreams were put together, October 10 of 21, and then 10/24 of 21, so 4 days later. I had asked, what do I do with this? I don't even know. It was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen. And I was like, what do you want me to do with this? And the Lord had told me, by so doing, that the whole world will know that I am. And now I see this, because this is bringing forth the kingdom, what this was actually all entailing and why I was told that. So if you remember in the first dream, I had shared, I had been at home. There was a woman there. I didn't know who she was. I had went up to check some livestock. I was getting ready to leave, and the livestock just happened to be on the east side of the mountain that we lived on at the time. And so when I had went up there, the ground was burning, but there was no fire. So it was smoldering, but there was no flame from that. And so as I got ready to leave, I went in and I told her, you might just be watchful in case fire starts. Okay, what are we supposed to be doing? We're supposed to be watching. We're supposed to be watchful. So the ground at that point was smoldering, but there was still no flame. So 4 days later, I'm given this dream. And in this dream, I am instructed to get up and go look out towards the East Mountain. And at the time, where we lived, that was the only view we had out of the trees, was the East Mountain. So as I had gotten up in the stream and went and looked out the East Mountain split. And at that point, Joshua was seen in a red robe coming through, the mountain had split, and he came through this mountain on a chariot of fire. Why is he on a chariot of fire? He's here to ignite the earth on fire that wasn't quite yet burning, but he's here to set his fire upon the earth. Okay, and he made his way quickly across the world, and he hit all 4 corners of the earth with this fire. So the earth was set on fire. So the next thing that I saw was you could see, it was almost like there was no more veil there. Okay, there was no more veil, and you could see what was happening in heaven clearly on the earth. And so that makes sense now, and I should have put that in here as a sea of glass. So you could clearly see heaven but you were seeing it still in the flesh with your mortal eyes. You were seeing it. And so that's where there was a square building that was floating above me. And at first I couldn't understand, is this a castle? What am I seeing? I don't understand. So the square building represented the kingdom, and there was 4 pillars on each side of the building. There was a square pillar on each side of the building, the square building that was floating in the heavens. Okay, and so the 4 pillars represented the 4 corners of the earth. And then I was shown, and what's happening, okay, in Revelation, it talks about that the 144,000 will be sent out to heal the nations from all 4 corners of the earth. Okay, so then I was shown Father's crest, and this is huge. This is so amazing. So Father's crest, what is the purpose of a crest? And at the time I'm like, I don't even know what that is. So I had to ask more questions, and I was told it was something that you seal something with. But since then, I've been told, or you break the crest on something and you reveal. Okay, so the Father's crest was shown, and then around the 4 corners, I was shown the gates of heaven that we enter in at. Okay, and it's in east. East is the key. East is why the rivers, the 4 heads were created eastward out of Eden. When Christ appeared, he appeared, he came from the east mountain. So we enter in at this east gate, okay? So then in this dream, there were gifts given, and these tubes started falling from heaven, okay? And many people picked them up, and there were many people that did not. But when you opened up this tube, this ball expanded from it, and it had a message on it that said, Jesus loves you. And the understanding was that, if we could take him as our personal guide, and that he would guide us. So if we took him as our personal guide, not the world, but him as our personal guide, he would guide us. So I looked at this ball and I was like, what is this? And I knew in my heart it was some kind of compass, but I didn't understand. So if you look at the symbol that they've been showing me from our heart, the throne room, which is right here, right? And these are this is the balance of male and female energy, the kings and queens that are around the throne. The 48, okay? This is the compass that I was shown in the dream. That's what I've been drawing, and I didn't even understand it until the other day. This is the compass. This was the gift that came, the very first gift that he gave was literally the compass. And it was to allow him to become our personal guide, our personal one-on-one teacher, to let the world go and what the world had taught us. So, and what that heart, as we allow him to guide our heart and guide us back into truths, he is our compass. The heart of Jehovah is activated within us because Father and Mother and Jehovah reside within the throne room, that's what the circle represents, is the throne room, okay? And this is the design of the flower, right? That in the desert the flower will bloom, and this represents, they're connected here, and I need to show that really quick. So this energy is connected of male and female energy, and it crosses like this. And then here it crosses again, male and female energy. And if you have not watched 1 through 11, and there was 3 parts of 11, I highly encourage you to go back and watch them so that you understand what's being given. Okay. So then the next gift that was given was the most amazing heavenly fruit that you've ever seen. There's nothing on earth like it. And it was falling from the heavens. And since it was daytime outside, there were many cars that were running over it and trying to destroy this fruit. But it did not stop the people from getting to the fruit. This is our journey. As we take Yahshua as our compass, this is our journey. That there will be many trying to destroy this fruit because it's coming to you in the eternal truths, not what the world has taught us. So it looks different because it's untainted from the world. It's this true heavenly feast. It's the manna from heaven. These are the eternal truths that are going to be unlocked as you take Yahshua as your guide and compass. Okay, and So I want to go back and look at this really quick. So this, they had me explain, our menorah and the beauty of our menorah and it fully being lit in that male and female energy, as it flows from father to mother. And then this way it goes from mother to father. So it's in perfect balance and flow all the time, flowing uninterrupted. Okay, and we have to have that flow in order for a new kingdom, a new heaven and earth to be created. Okay, so I'm not sure if you can see. I'm going to move this really quick. And hopefully, let's see if I move this, if this works. This might work. I don't know. Okay, so we're going to go. So this was the heavenly fruit, okay? So that's the feast from heaven. So we are going to get the truth, the eternal truths from heaven. And I'm going to share this really quick. So when Joshua began this journey with me 8 years ago, when he awakened me, I was like, oh my goodness. And since then, I've shared he is my king, Emmanuel, okay? Because that's his role, is to redeem his people, help them remember who they are. He had told me 8 years ago that I did not come here to get a high school diploma in the kingdom gospel of man. I came here to get a doctorate degree in the kingdom gospel of eternity, okay? And so a doctorate degree requires much work. And, in any schooling, you're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna have to learn. You're gonna have to grow. And that's what this process is. So you are not gonna get everything 100% perfect. You have to have grace with yourself, which is extremely hard in a world that has taught us to shame and be so difficult on ourselves. But through this process, then you gain that true perfected love that can only come from Father and Mother and Yahshua, that true perfected love that lives in us, that our very essence was made from. And then we learn to love Father and Mother in that true perfected love. We mirror that back. We honor them in what we do, because it's all we can do. That's the only love we can show them, is honoring them in what they've given us. And, share the things that they have given us. And in return, have grace for ourselves, because they have grace for us through this process. As we take our journey of learning with them, we learn what true love is then for ourselves. And then we can love others as ourselves. So that is achieving the first and second greatest commandment. It's through that process. So we have this heavenly feast. So then the next gift that was given were that these gifts were being, again, they were falling from heaven, and I could see the gifts, it was a stone. So you could see that the gifts were all a stone, but I was only allowed to read directly what was on mine. And I was told that they were names, but I was only allowed to read my stone, and it was between me and Joshua. And so the stone represents Revelation 2:17, the new name that is given to you, that is only between you and Joshua. And what this does is, through your journey of learning, you know who's speaking to you, because that name is directly through you and him. So you are able to know who is actually speaking to you. And you, at any time, if you have, if you feel like you're being bombarded in your mind, you can ask, I need my new name given. And it is only between you and Joshua. You don't speak it, because it is very sacred, and it's only between you and him. Nobody knows it. They can't go to another person. They can't go to a computer screen. They can't go anywhere and get that. It lives within you. Okay? And this also is really important, because that name and the gates that you enter in, super important. Okay, so I'm going to, hopefully, we can see the rest of this whiteboard. So the next event that happened, number 9, was that people were now freely moving between heaven and earth. And this was done with such love and joy. And the people understood who they were, but it's done in absolute just love and compassion. They, and they were able to, I saw my husband, and he was so excited that he saw friends throughout eternity. They could remember who they were, but it was just for a purpose of remembering who they are and the beauty of that. And it was not done to create any kind of chaos or hurt upon the earth. So they move freely between heaven and earth, then to do the work to build the kingdom, right? You have to be able to move freely between heaven and earth, also in order to build the kingdom back upon the earth. So then the 10th event that happened was that when the day events were done, Yahshua handed me over to Father. And Father rolled back the night sky like a scroll. Well, what happens when a scroll is rolled back? The crest, Father's crest, is broken, right? And why is a crest broken? Scrolls are now unrolled. The mysteries are told. That's the whole purpose, and that's the book of Revelation, right? We were promised those mysteries would come forward, and that can only happen as the crest is broken. And that's all in Father's timing, and He knows when it's time to do that. Okay. So what happened when He handed me over to Father was the worlds without numbers were displayed. So eternity was displayed. And I saw the golden arches that connected them all together, the kingdoms, to Father and Mother's kingdom from the start. So they were all connected by these golden arches. And I've talked about all this stuff. And you cannot create... So why would this have to be displayed? So you cannot create a new one without the correct pattern to do so that was created by Father and Mother. And if you all remember, in that dream, all of a sudden there was a woman standing next to me as this was being displayed. And it was so like, oh my goodness. And this woman standing next to me, I didn't know like where she came from, who she was. I was just like, where did this woman come from? And she had asked Father, is this the genealogy of our ancestors? And He answered so firmly that it shook everything. And He said, this is who you are eternally and what you have eternally done for eternity. Like, this is who we are. Outside of the here and now, as we get stuck in this worldly state thinking that there's just the here and now, Father was displaying that there was much more. Well, who is He directly speaking to? And why did she ask that question? I've since then been told that Heavenly Mother was standing next to me. So she had to ask the question so that I understood later what was being said. And that there is more to us in the here and now. And this is a kingdom. And these kingdoms eternally progress. And you cannot build a new kingdom, a new heaven and an earth, without the correct pattern, without the correct balance of, this male and female energy freely flowing. And so this has nothing to do, with trying to understand our genealogy. This has to do with eternal truths of how the kingdom is patterned from their kingdom that they have then passed down, Father, Son, Father, Son, Father, Son. And with those sons in a kingdom, there are always queens. That's why the energy of male and female energy, the balance of Father and Mother, have to be in a balance and alignment. And why it's so important then that we learn the heart of Jehovah, because He came back into that balance. And again, I've taught on that's how our menorahs are lit, by that perfect balance. So as we understand this eternal pattern, then a new heaven and earth can truly be created. And the last thing that I was shown in that dream was the tree of life. And then I woke up. So the tree of life, why is it so important that we understand our tree of life? They've had me talk about the tree of life. It has our books of life, the things that we have done throughout eternity for the kingdom. It doesn't mean that we're going back and repeating those. There are things in our tree of life that have to be healed. There are patterns that have to be broken, because they've had me share that we want to break the loops of, generational curses. Some people call it karmic, but generational curses, false traditions of the fathers, weaknesses that we had within ourselves. So this could be, let me find it. Okay, so if we look at the things that could have had, that have been with us throughout this past kingdom that need to be broken off of us, that we cannot continue to take into the next kingdom with us, is, there's arrogance, there's pride, there's there's, jealousy, division, there's strife, there's anger, there's, control and dominance, and the list goes on and on, sexual sin and unforgiveness and being ungrateful. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So in our tree of life, we are going to be shown things about us from our past. We're also going to be shown how we have been connected to other people. And it's just truly to see the beauty in that. It's not we don't go back and repeat the patterns of the past. For this new kingdom to be created, we're eternal beings that are always moving forward. Satan wants us stuck in the loops of the past. And so if we keep going back and repeating the same patterns over and over and over again, we cannot get out of the loops of the past. What we have to do is heal from those loops, those cycles. Like I used to tell my husband all the time, feeling like you're on a hamster wheel. Like you want to get off the hamster wheel. Because what you don't heal in this life, because we are eternal beings, right? I shared that eternally the truths live within us. If you don't face things, they're going to go with you into the next life. And again, you're going to have to continue to face those things, and those battles become harder and harder. So the beauty in seeing our tree of life is to go through the healing process. And when we are truly healed and our menorah is lit and we are in this perfect flow and alignment, we step back into our true authentic selves of who we are. Our gifts then can be fully activated and not partially activated, but we see the beauty of the tree of life. So as you begin to see things, you need to ask, is this for this world, or is this from a past life that was not healed, of something that I did that created disruption in the kingdom that needs to be healed so it's not taken into the next kingdom with me? Okay. So the tree of life it's multiple layered, but it's very beautiful. And so asking, Father wants more than anything, Father and Mother both. I need to make sure that I'm always putting them together because they stand side by side absolutely together as one. But they want their children to ask questions. And this is an area that I have struggled in, because the world taught us, oh, you just don't ask that. You just don't ask that. And it's like, no, if it is placed in your heart, you need to ask the question, because the more that you ask, the more that can be revealed and the more that you will understand and comprehend. And as you ask questions, right, this, our menorah, why is, like if you look at this menorah really quick, we have, our heart center. And that's the heart of Jehovah. That's the heart of Father and Mother. That's the heart of all of us, is the love and compassion. So what's the very next thing? We just came here with that, the love and compassion. But what is the first thing that we are supposed to gain in order to gain these 6 characteristics of Mother and these 6 characteristics of Father? Because the seventh characteristic is our very essence of who we are. The very first things that we are supposed to gain is wisdom and knowledge. Wisdom and knowledge comes from asking questions and asking them to the correct source and not getting that information from the world. Okay. So brothers and sisters, 3.5 years later, may that dream be understood more fully as, this earth is set on fire. And being set on fire, and so many people are coming into their awakening. These eternal truths live in us. The kingdom lives within us. Does the kingdom have to go through a healing process first? Absolutely, yes. That's why Emmanuel has to redeem his people. That's why a king is a redeemer and a king, because he has to redeem his people. He has to help them now remember who they are, so that a new kingdom can be birthed. A new heaven and earth can be birthed. And the birthing process cannot happen without the healing process. And it cannot happen without the true eternal truths coming forward, because then you're trying to build a kingdom that will continue to fall because it's on a faulty foundation. It's not on the solid foundation that Father and Mother literally created from their first kingdom, and then have passed down those eternal truths as their children have created kingdoms, because to have a kingdom, you have to have a man and a woman. You cannot do it without that. And that's why it's so important that we break the patriarchal dominance. So as I began to share things in Revelation, unsealed, understanding why the battle is fought, and to get out of that patriarchal dominance and back into the flow of male and female energy is so important, because it is the birthing of a new kingdom. And if we can see Revelation and what it's teaching us, truly, it is the birthing process of the new kingdom. And so may we give Father and Mother all the glory, all honor and praise be to them. This is their work that they began in the very first kingdom that was ever created by them. This is how they patterned everything that they created. And it is amazing and glorious. And I'm eternally grateful to understand these truths. Is there more? I'm sure. Like I've said, I've had to have grace with myself, because I had no idea what a doctorate degree involved until this. And this has been done with thousands upon thousands upon thousands of hours of revelation and learning and growing, and tears and tons and tons and tons of work. But the redemption process requires the work. Us being brought back into that remembrance requires the work. But if we truly want a new kingdom to come forward, a new heaven and earth to be created, and for now our king to be able to step forward and be crowned, the correct information has to be brought forward. That has been there throughout eternity, and that's why we are eternal beings. So it just, with all love, I send all love with this, and appreciation and gratitude for all the patience, and first and foremost from my Heavenly Father and Mother, and from Yahshua, and from anyone that's been involved in this journey that has helped benefit my life for good, and also those that brought a lot of heartache and pain and trial, but allowing Father and Mother to show me it through their eyes, because in the process of that, I have gained that witness and testimony for myself that for those who love Father and Mother, they will use all things for your good. And as you lean on them, even the hardest of trials that in a mortal mind you could never understand, how someone could do something, or why you would be put through something like that, or whatever it is, the hardest of trials, they can truly bring beauty from the ashes of that, and the growth will come if you allow yourself to see it through their eyes and no longer the eyes of the flesh. So have a glorious day, and may the kingdom now come forward.